Hello friends, welcome to the today's series classes that is of part 3 domain 2, that is IT risk assessment. Friends, in this chapter we'll be covering about the following topics. The first will be the threat, misuse and abuse case modeling. Second will be the threat model methods. Third will be the vulnerability and control deficiency analysis. Fourth, emerging threat. And at last we'll see about the threat, misuse and abuse case modeling. Right? Friends, before starting, let's understand the first word, like understand about the threat modeling. Right? So as per the definition, we can say that it is a threat assessment that attempt to determine all possible vectors of attack and include risk factor that may affect, right, the ability of a threat actor to initiate or complete a threat event. Understood? So understanding the enemy's thinking and strategy as well as the attacker motivation and skill level is crucial for assessing whether or not a danger actually exists. Right? So the risk assessment can be considerably aided by threat modeling, which analyzes the threat nature and the various threat scenario. Understood? So the threat modeling is the process of mapping probable strategies, tactics and procedures with technique that an adversary might use to carry out an assault. Right? Understood? So friends, when attempting to breach a system, the threat agents frequently tries various tools and scans for the weaknesses and employ both technical and non-technical methods. Right? So the risk practitioner must consider as many of these techniques and strategies as they can in order to create effective controls that can counter potential danger. Understood? So the threat modeling enables the risk practitioner or system developer or designer, or else we can say operator, to construct system with an eye toward defensive control, built-in security features and optimal placement within a strategy of overlapping defenses that can discourage or avoid system failure. Understood? So the understanding the instance of misuse and abuse make it possible to build the resilient system, right, that can withstand mistake, misuse and abuse. Understood? So the process of attempting to pinpoint the threat actors, as we have seen, they are different types like actors, threat type, event and asset. We'll discuss each and everything one by one. So the process of attempting to pinpoint the threat actor and their objective behind an assault is known as threat attribution. Right? So in order to link an attack with the particular threat actor, this often significantly relies on the use of forensic analysis to gather evidence and catalog known indication of compromise and indicators of attack. Right? So friends, threat attribution can be challenging, though not impossible, and must be balanced with the organization strategy, goals and objectives. So friends, as accuracy and confidence associated with the attribution will vary depending on the quality of data available and require a significant investment. Right? So different threat scenarios as mentioned in the slide we can say. So let's discuss. The first in the list is the actor, like threat actor. Understood? So it describes the individual or the group that can act against the asset. Right? The threat actor can be an individual internal to the organization like an employee. It can also be external such as cyber criminal organization. Right? The intent is usually defined here, for example, malicious, unintentional or accidental actions. Somewhat we can say nature, that is force majeure event are also considered as a threat actors. Right? Second is the asset. Okay. So what is an asset? As we have discussed earlier also, the asset is the thing of value to the organization, tangible or intangible. For example, people, money, physical equipment, intellectual property, data and reputation. So in order to make a risk scenario complete and useful for the risk analysis, they should contain components as shown in the figure. Right? Such as actors are agents who give rise to the threat. Right? They can be internal, like internal staff, such as people and skills. Understood? Or external, like competitors, regulators in the market. right? So nature of event, right? What is nature of event? Depending on the nature, threat type have categories such as malicious or accidental, right? Objectives. What is such an objective? Objective time refer to the duration, right? Or time of occurrence of an event and timing to detect an event, right? Similarly, threat type and event. Threat types such as malicious, accidental, error, failure, flood, external requirement, right? Error, failure, or natural external requirement is an event referred to the type of occurrence, right? Such as disclosure. Similarly, event, disclosure, interruption, modification, theft, destruction, ineffective design, and ineffective execution can be a part of a threat scenarios, right? Okay, moving further ahead, let's give more focus on the threat modeling. Okay, the friends, what is threat modeling? Threat modeling is an important part of the risk analysis process, as it is important to identify the variety of actors associated with a given scenario, right? So the process of attempting to pinpoint the threat actor and their objective, right, behind an assault is known as threat attribution. So in order to link an attack with a particular threat actor, this often significantly relies on the use of forensic analysis to gather evidence and catalog known indication of compromise and indicators of attack, right? So for each threat community, the company has identified the response to these queries can be compiled in a threat profile and kept up to date. To have a clear understanding of end-to-end enterprise risk, the profile can then be associated with the relevant threat discovered and subsequent risk scenario, right? So we can say that as every organization, system and security team is unique, there is a variety of threat modeling methodologies that can be employed to meet their particular need and the goals. While each has their own slightly different naming convention and series of steps, the most prevalent threat model process encompasses roughly the same logical flow at their core, right? So all the threat models include an abstraction to the system. Some attack the profile of potential attackers, include their goals and the methods. And a third will be the catalog of potential threat that may arise, right? So as one dives deeper in each of the threat model, however, there is a variation in their level of details or depth, their breadth, input and output and scope. Understood? So for example, some model incorporate aspect of privacy concern, while others just focus on risk at the enterprise level, right? So at the same time, two or more threat models can be combined to provide the specific type of analysis that an organization may need, right? Okay, let's having some more thing, understand the threat modeling. Threat modeling happens like additionally it will offer high level response, right, to the fundamental queries like how often will a threat actor encounter the asset at a vendor location, right? Similarly, what is the danger of discovery posed at the threat actor while it is attempting to compromise those assets? Third will be the what perceived value may enterprise data at the third party hold for an adversary. Similarly, what skills does an adversary need to succeed in compromising vendor system and accessing enterprise data? Fourth, how much time does an adversary need to compromise system and access data? The last will be the what resource and material does the adversary need? And at last, what level of effort is required overall from the threat actor to compromise the vendor, right? Let's discuss about the, so friends, in this we have understood like for each threat community, the company is identified and responses to those queries can be compiled in a threat profile and kept up to date, right? To provide a clearer picture of end-to-end enterprise risk, the profile can be connected with the risk assessment, third party and business processes, right? Okay, let's discuss about the few model methods, right? Threat model methods. Friends, this is the important thing. Please do focus on it and spend some time in order to understand it, right? Now, coming to the third model, like stride. What is stride? Stride is a methodology, right, developed by the Microsoft for threat modeling, right? It provides a mnemonics of security threat in a 6 categories, as we have seen. Like first will be the spoofing. S stand for spoofing. We all know what is spoofing, okay? So, and what is spoofing? Like we can say that an adversary posing an another user, right, or component or another system that has an identity in the system being modeled, right? Similarly, T stands for tampering. What does the tampering stands for? Means tampering is a modification of data within the system to achieve a malicious goal, right? Same R stands for repudiation. What is repudiation? The ability of an adversary to deny performing some malicious activity in the absence of sufficient proof, right? I stands for information disclosure, right? So the exposure of a protected data to a user that is not otherwise allowed access to that data, right? Similarly, D stands for denial of service. So this occurs when an adversary uses illegitimate means to assume a trust level that he currently has with different privileges, right? And last, with the elevation of privilege, we can say that in this the threat occurs when an attacker successfully breaches the administrative control of a system and tampers its configured permission and privileges. So by this, attacker can reach from low level system in the network to system of higher authority which contain confidential information, right? It have some benefit also, like it help in identifying the relevant mitigating techniques. Most mature method it is and easy to use, but it's bit of time consuming because of this all lengthy process, right? It is as we have discussed, that's adopted by the Microsoft in 1999. Strides is currently the most mature threat modeling method, and Stride evaluate the system detail design, right? It model the in-place system by building the data flow diagram, right? Stride is used to identify the system entities, events, and the boundary of the system, right? Okay, moving to next. That is mnemonics, that is PASTA, PASTA, that process of attack simulation and threat analysis, right? Friends, it is a 7-step, right, risk-centric methodology. The purpose is to provide a dynamic threat identification, enumeration, and scoring process, right? So upon completion of the threat model, right, security subject matter expert develop a detailed analysis of the identified threat, right? So finally, appropriate security control can be enumerated. So this helps the developer to develop an asset-centric mitigation strategy by analyzing the attacker-centric view of an application, right? So benefits, what is the benefit? Benefit is directly contribute to the risk management, promote the stakeholder engagement, assist in identifying appropriate threat mitigation strategies, prioritize threat mitigation, is time consuming but include extensive documentation, right? So the background is a framework for, it is a framework for modeling threat based on the risk called PASTA, was created in 2012, right? It has a 7 level, each with a number of actions, right? So PASTA strive to harmonize corporate goal with the technological demand. Understood? Okay, moving to the next. Next is Lind Dun, like linkability, identifiability. N stands for non-repudiation, D for detectability, one more D is for disclosure of information, U for unawareness, and N for non-compliance, right? Friends, in this that it assists in identifying the appropriate mitigation strategies and prioritize the threat reduction, although it can be time and labor extensive. Understood? So in this, the Linden emphasizes privacy issues and may be used to data security, right? Somewhat we can say that this approach began with what we have understood DFD, right, of the system, which outline the data flow and data storage processes and external entities of the system, right. It may be used to analyze the model components from the perspective of threat categories in order to determine a threat applicability to the system and to construct threat trees, right. Moving to the next, that is attack trees. Friends, attack trees is when repeated consistently, right? It helps to identify the relevant mitigation technique. Has consistent result when repeated, right? Easy to use if a thorough understanding of a system is already in place, and labor intensive and time consuming, right? So attack trees are the visualization, right, that shows system assault as trees, right. The attack's target is the tree root, and using the leaves is one way to get there, right. So the distinct tree is used to represent each objective. So as a result, a collection of attack trees are generated by the system threat analysis. So the attack trees are the conceptual diagram showing how an asset or target might be attacked. These are multi-level diagram consisting of one root node, right, leaves and children node from bottom to top, and child nodes are conditions that must be satisfied to make the direct parent node true, right. So we can just take an example. Suppose there is a one grandchild below the root node, right. In such a case, multiple steps may be taken to carry out an attack, right. First, the grandchild condition must be satisfied for the direct parent node to be true, and then the direct parent node condition must be satisfied to make the root node true, right. So it also has an or option which represent alternatives and different steps toward achieving the goal. Understood? Moving to the next, that is persona non grata, right, PNG. Friends, when we can say that it is another creative model, right, that utilizes an imaginary dangerous persona to perform the malicious or unwanted behavior against a system or to a piece of software, right. So when using persona non grata, organization first define the appropriate or typical use case that an asset is to be used, and for each step of the process, documents and the security measures in place. Understood? So finally, an alternative and a malicious method or use case is identified that can be used to exploit it, right. So the benefit we can understand, as we have seen on the slide, that the when repeated, it consistently produces the same finding and only detects particular subgroup of danger. It also assists in identifying pertinent mitigation approaches, directly contributing to the risk management, right. Similarly, persona non grata focuses on the goal and the capability of human resilience. Users are portrayed as archetypes who have the potential to abuse the system, right, which pushes analysts to assess the system from the perspective of unintended usage. Understood? So the purpose is to introduce a technical expert to a possible system attacker and analyze the attacker's capability, drives and objectives. The expert is able to comprehend the system weakness and the perspective of a attackers thanks to this study. Understood? So persona non grata frequently integrates well with the persona based agile methodology. Right? Moving to the next, that is vulnerability and control deficiency analysis. Right? In vulnerability analysis, a threat actor can take advantage of vulnerabilities that an organization, right, organization, people, process or technology to cause repercussion that could have an impact on the economy, right. So vulnerabilities, we all know, that are the weakness in the gap in the enterprise people, processes or technologies that provide an opportunity for a threat actor to exploit, creating consequences that may impact the enterprise. Right? So friends, in this, the many vulnerabilities are the system condition that must be identified to addressed. So the purpose of vulnerability identification is to find problems before an adversary find and exploit them. Similarly, an enterprise should conduct regular vulnerability assessment and penetration test to identify, validate, and classify its vulnerability. So when vulnerability exists, there is a potential for risk. Understood? Similarly, special publication of 800 by 30 from the National Institute of Standard and Technology, NIST, the predisposing condition that can cause the sudden or unforeseen appearance of new vulnerabilities are listed in revision 1. Right? Guide to conduct risk assessment along with the list of vulnerabilities to take into account. Right? So in order to resolve the numerous vulnerability that exist in the system, they must be first be discovered. Right? So the goal of vulnerability identification is to locate issues before an opponent does and uses them against you. Right? So to detect and evaluate and categorize its vulnerability, a company should do frequent vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Risk might occur in the area where there are vulnerabilities. Understood? Moving to the next. First will be the network, right? What is a network? Network vulnerabilities is a misconfiguration of equipment or poor architecture or traffic interception protocol. Okay, let's understand. Friends, network vulnerabilities are frequently caused by incorrectly configured hardware, right? Architecture or traffic eavesdropping. Understood? So when network equipment is improperly installed, managed or maintained, misconfiguration is a typical issue. So network equipment should be hardened by deactivating any unnecessary services, ports or protocols, since any open services are a possible attack vector that an attack may exploit. Right? Coming to the next, that is physical access. In the physical access, it allows the attacker to potentially bypass and other type of controls. Right? Physical safety extends much beyond the preventing theft. Right? Threat actors that can physically access the system have the ability to go beyond almost every other kind of security measures. Right? So an attacker can defeat password, set up schemas to collect the data transfer, and gain logical ownership of system to or devices with access to server room or network cabling or information system equipment or let's say building also. Right? So a strong physical security is clearly necessary and becoming more so as more than 20% of incidents involve insiders abusing the system who may already have an edge in terms of acquiring physical access. Right? Moving to the next, application and web, that is application and web facing services. Right? Application and general and online application specifically are some of the most popular entry points utilized by the attackers right now. Right? Somewhat we can say that numerous programs are created to support the business operation without giving proper consideration to the security need of the applicants, making them susceptible to the buffer overflow or we can say logic errors, injection attack and bugs. And we can say that the risk practitioner can evaluate web facing app for well known and documented vulnerabilities that could result in data compromise or system failure. Right? Similarly, applications can may be exposed as a result of bad architecture. Right? So applications that handle sensitive data like credit card information or keep it insecurely as in a demilitarized zone, okay, are more likely to be repeatedly attacked. Right? So this raises the possibility that an attacker may discover a weakness to exploit, right? Similarly, coming to the utilities, power failure or environmental condition leading to system failure, right? So information system depend upon regulated environmental factor such as stable and clean electricity as well as humidity and temperature management. So in order to prevent situations that might result in the system failure, a risk practitioner should make sure that a company is ready for a power outages or other environmental circumstances. Equipment can be shielded against harm or failure with the help of uninterruptible power supply, that is UPS, backup generators and surge protectors. But these systems cost more than just the initial outlay, right? Let's say example, the UPS has to be verified to make sure it has enough power to operate crucial system until a backup generator can be turned on, and then it need to be inspected frequently, right? Friends, generator also need to be checked for fuel and mechanical operation. Coming to the next, supply chain. Friends, many businesses relies on good and raw materials and supplies that come from all over the world, right? So any disruption in the supply chain might have an impact on how well they can run. For instance, any flight operation at an airport would be affected by a fuel supply deficit, even if top management is aware that a risk is one that should be accepted, or supply chain dependency has to be recorded, right? Similarly, equipment. Friends, we all know that the equipment gets older, it loses efficiency and effectiveness and may even stop supporting certain business operations. So a mean time between failure rating for the equipment is frequently included at the time of manufacturing. So older technology can provide a variety of hazard to the business, and each one has to be looked at and taken into account in the overall context of the benefit and commercial value it offers, right? So core business processes may occasionally be constructed and around obsolete system, right? So in this situation, the expense and inconvenience to this company may outweigh the advantages of installing a new system, right? Next in the line will be the cloud computing, right? Friends, we all know that since decades, outsourcing of data processing and application hosting has been more and more common, right? So however, the practice has changed as high speed internet has been more widely available and virtual machine hosting services have become more affordable, right? So with astounding redundancy, automated failover, and that ensures the uptime above 99.9% services housed in the third party data center may now significantly undercut internal operations in terms of cost, though on high demand pricing, right? Coming to the next, that is big data. Friends, the ability to analyze data from variety of organized and unstructured data sources has improved, right? So enabling businesses to make better decisions and gain a competitive edge. Organizations should be aware that the adoption of non-acceptance of these skills might result in technical and operational risk due to change in the analytics capability with the big data, right? Friends, that is a data overflow, right? Might cause the issue with the quality. So if big data cannot be used to improve the business decision making, it is useless, right? So poorly gathered data cannot be the basis of education that are effective. Additionally, as complex and unstructured data are introduced, data governance attempt may be hampered, right? Moving to the next, cloud deployment and service models. Friends, let's discuss one by one. First will be the private cloud. That is known as, we can say, the personal cloud, right? Purely for the benefit of the business, right? It may be run by a business or a third party, or may be located on and off the site, right? Next will be the community, right? What is community? Community cloud is shared by the many businesses, right? As the name says. So supports a particular group of people who have common goal or objective possibly run by the businesses or a third party, right? So coming to the next, that is public cloud. Public cloud, it provides the broader public or a significant industry group possessed by a business that sells the cloud service, right? Next in the line will be the hybrid cloud. What is hybrid cloud? As the name says, a grouping of two or more clouds, right? Such as private or we can say communal or public, right? Each of which is distinct from other, but which are connected by standardized or a proprietary technology that allow data and application mobility, right? Example, cloud bursting for load balancing across the cloud, right? Although cloud computing has numerous benefits for businesses, it is important for both the organization and the risk practitioner to understand that outsourcing data processing does not absolve the outsourcing company for its responsibility to guarantee the adequate security. The capacity of outsourced organization to monitor what happens inside the firm that hosts its data center may be quite restricted, even though large data centers that are built to service hundreds or thousands of clients are often more safeguarded than standalone operations. Right? Okay, friends, let's discuss about the few services. First is infrastructure as a service. Right? Friends, in this we can say that with regard to the business and legal requirement, is important to carefully consider the risk involved in selecting the appropriate service, right? And deployment methods, right? So as the first one, that is IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service, which allow the customer to deploy and execute any software, right? Including operating system and application, is the capacity to supply processing or storage or network and other basic computer resources. Infrastructure as a service gives a third party control over certain IT processes, right? Something required to be considered, that is options to lessen the effect in the event that the cloud provider has a service outages, right? Next service, platform as a service, right? Platform as a service refer to the ability to use programming language and the tools offered by the provider to deploy customer created or bought apps into the cloud infrastructure, right? Something required to be considered, that is data ownership concern, right? With e-discovery availability, confidentiality or privacy, and legal accountability in the case of security breaches, as database storing sensitivity will be housed offshore, right? Next within the line will be the software as a service, right? Friends, it is the ability to employ cloud-based applications provided by the supplier, right? Though a thin client interface like a web browser, the application may be accessed from the variety of client devices, for example, web-based or email, right? So the thing which is required to be considered in this is the who is the application owner and what location do the applications have, right? Friends, here we come to the end of the part 3 domain 3 presented by the Let's Learn series. Friends, thank you for watching and please do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.